WJG Sports. We journal great.
What's up, everybody? This is the Just Like Bruddas podcast, episode 60. My name is Laika Abibi here in Greenville, North Carolina. Alongside me, as always, the incomparable Kai Jones in Goldsboro. And our special guest today is a really special guest, Mars Hill University assistant men's basketball coach Alex Biggerstaff. Coach, thank you for joining us, man.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on.
We'll get into a little bit of your background. How did you kind of get started playing basketball from like high school to college and then transition into coaching?
Yeah, so for me, basketball has kind of been in my family for a long time. My father played in college. My mother was a pretty good player in high school. My grandfather coached middle school and high school basketball for 30 plus years. So it's just kind of always like, you know, some people say like, you know, it was in me from, you know, a baby, like, you know, they put the ball in my hands, like literally that's how it was for me. You know, I'd always want growing up to go to practices of my grandfather's. My mom worked at the high school that I went to, so I always went to their games. And, you know, believe it or not, for me, the passion for it didn't really start at an early age like most people. I was a much bigger baseball guy. I started playing t-ball like 4 or 5 years old. I didn't play basketball till I was about 7. So, you know, I was a baseball kid kind of growing up. But, you know, as I got older, I kind of dropped baseball off to the side, football off to the side, and basketball kind of became my love. But, you know, in high school, I was surrounded by a great coach who, you know, coming in, I feel like high school coaches I wouldn't say necessarily don't, but I feel like they don't ask kids at an early age, like, what do you want out of this? Like, do you want to be a college player? Do you want to get to the next level? What do you want from this? But my high school coach kind of, you know, when I was in 8th grade, that summer coming up, I'd always played like travel basketball. And back then it was like the YBOA circuit and AAU was still kind of coming up. That's kind of crazy now because I don't even know if YBOA exists anymore. But like for me that summer, he was just kind of like, you know, what do you want out of this? Like, how can I help you? How hard do you want me to push you? Do you want to play in college? Do you have that dream, that aspiration? And when I said yes, from there it was on. You know, he helped me find competitive AAU programs to play with. He was contacting college coaches from an early standpoint. Luckily for me, I got to play with a 7-footer in high school who was actually a 3-star recruit on Rivals and ESPN. So I had college coaches already in the gym. And man, my high school coach just did a great job. Like, he never let me slip. He never, you know, pushed me too hard to the point of just me giving up, you know, and quitting basketball altogether. But I felt like he did a great job of just, you know, this is what you wanted and this is what you said. And to get to that next level, I've got to do what I can do to get it out of you. And there are some great high school coaches now that do that. And then also I feel like, especially up here in my area, you know, I grew up an hour and a half from where I am right now. I just feel like it doesn't exist as much. Like I said, you know, earlier, us just talking like it's much more football in this area. But, you know,
up there.
Oh, love the football. It's all about football, Friday night lights, all that stuff.
Yeah. Some of the atmospheres in the West are incredible too. So.
Oh man, like there's so many different just venues and fields and stadiums, and that's a whole nother, like, we could probably talk about that for an hour, but you know, so my high school coach, you know, he was on me. I think one of the coolest things he ever did was he had like a college you know how like now in high school, like especially for me figuring out like college coaches just go and they'll call the high school coach and say, you know, I'm going to come see this kid work out next week, blah, 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 you know, when are your workout times? And high school coaches send workout times. But my high school coach, I think, was before, like he was already ahead of the system back then in the fact that he would legitimately call 20 to 30 college coaches, whether it be D1, D2, NAI, whatever. And he would be like, every Friday, we're going to have a college, like we're going to have a workout day. And he would literally, we would come in and it would be right after school and there would just be chairs lined, like all the way around the baseline, all the way to the sideline. And, you know, that started my freshman year. So even before I played competitive AAU, I was kind of exposed to college coaches, recruiters, all that different stuff. But fortunately for me, he was also a great teacher of the game, very big on fundamentals, old school type of coach. But I grew. I had a pretty good, you know, high school campaign. We came my junior year, which was 2010, 2011. We came just a game short of the state championship game. We lost to a very good East Rutherford high school team, who I believe ended up beating Northwood in the championship, I think. That shows my age right there. I can't even remember. But, you know, those 2 years really kind of propelled me onto a lot of college coaches' radars. I was blessed to be recruited kind of by the hometown team, UNC Asheville, who then was coached by Eddie Biedenbach, which is the dog father, as they call him. So, you know, that was for me kind of a hard opportunity to pass up, especially just because growing up in the area, I feel like outside of this area, nobody really knew who UNC Asheville was. And my senior year is the year that they narrowly lost to Syracuse. So
right, I remember that game. It was wild.
Oh my gosh, man! I was sitting at home because I'd already told them, like I'd already called, committed, told them I was coming, and I was just remember sitting there at home like, if they beat Syracuse right now, like,
their recruitment was going to go through the roof.
Oh,
man.
through the roof. And you know, one thing that we'll get to later that I kind of talk to my recruits about now is that I was one of those kids, stubbornly enough, that all I thought about was Division I basketball. I didn't know, you know, what D2 was. I had went on a visit to an NAI school just because my high school coach had told me, like, this is one of my good friends, you need to go. And honestly, if I could go back and do it all over again, I would consider every D2 school that ever contacted me, because the level of play at the Division II level is, honestly, in my mind, and I'm saying this as a Division II assistant coach, is better than some Division I leagues. And so, you know, I learned the hard way going to a Division I program, that it's a business, obviously, college basketball. And if you don't perform and you don't, you know, live up to expectations that's set forth for you, that you can easily be, you know, replaced, but in a nice way. It's not like a, hey, forget about you, like we're just going to send you to the side. They give you every opportunity. You know, most coaches are going to give you every opportunity to do, you know, to prove yourself, prove your worth. If you put in the work, they're going to reward you. But I was one of those that didn't. At the time, I kind of had gotten to that level and just kind of thought, and I think this is another thing too now with kids, is like you get to that level and you think it just stops. Like I'm done. I've done what I'm supposed to do. I'm here. I've done what everybody told me I couldn't do. So why do I have to work now? Like, it's already here. It's just going to come to me type And so I went through kind of like a harsh reality, like that's not how it is. And luckily for me, you know, we had a coaching change the middle of, well, actually after my freshman year. Eddie retired.
Yep.
And new coach came in, Nick McDevitt, but he had been his assistant for a long time. Great coach. Have a lot of respect for him. And, you know, I continued down that path of, you know, it's here for me. It's, you know, why do I have to work now? And, you know, just I came to a harsh realization, like this probably isn't the level for me. And I need to figure out if I still love it like I say I do. And Christmas of my third year there, I had redshirted my first year. I actually transferred down to NAI school, Milligan College, which is now Milligan University, in a very tough league with a lot of Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina type schools. And, you know, it was there that I kind of got my eyes open, like, you know, I had to re-find the love for it. And my head coach there, Bill Robinson, who is one of my biggest mentors, not just in coaching, but in life, he kind of put it back into me in kind of an unconditional or an unconventional type way where, you know, he put the care and the love into me as a person instead of a player. And that kind of accelerated, like, man, he really loves me for who I am as a kid, who I am as a teenager. He accepts that I've made all these mistakes. I've got to go to battle for this guy. Like, I've got to put in the work. I've got to do all this different stuff. And I was blessed to finish out my last 2 years there, which that was just a huge blessing, because now you look at the transfer portal and see how many names are in it. It's a blessing really to, you know, find a second home and a second chance. So that's kind of, you know, my background with playing. I know that was kind of a longer answer.
No, Coach.
Please, this is your show, man. This is your show. But,
you know, Coach, I do want to ask you, you know, you talk about, you know, because I remember as a player thinking, okay, I work hard in practice, and
right.
I thought that was enough, where it's like, okay, I'll outwork this guy in practice, but I didn't think about how this guy was coming in afterwards to practice.
Right.
You know, when you say that you weren't working hard enough, you know, kind of, you know, can you kind of go into a little bit more detail about some of the ways that you kind of maybe fell short in that you kind of figured out later on in your playing career?
Yeah. I think one of them is a big one that I see a lot now as a coach is, even when you come to practice, it's just you find guys or yourself going through the motions a lot. It could be, you know, whether it's a drill or, you know, you're running through your plays, or, you know, you're going, you know, we play one-on-one a lot in practice, whether it's that and just being like, if he gets me today, it's fine, whatever. Like, you know, coaches watch all that stuff. Like, there's 3 or 4 guys on a staff, you know, and they watch, like, everybody watches a certain thing. Like, they can tell, like, man, this guy had a really good practice or this guy didn't. And I think, you know, another thing for me too was like, I would have, you know, 1 or 2 good practices, but I wasn't consistent with it. I don't think, you know, I would have 1 or 2 good days and then follow it up with like a complete bad week. And I think, you know, once you get to this level, that's not acceptable. If you truly love it, like I think about my job or any other job in the world, like if you truly love it and it's what you want to do, like you're going to give 100% no matter what. And you're going to do your job to the best of your ability every day. So, you know, for guys that come into our offices and sit there and tell us like, hey, coach, I love this. Like, I'm going to give everything I want. I want to be a professional. I want this. I want that, you know, and then for them not to come in and give 100% every day, that's just kind of like, you know, it's contradicting of what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish. I think those are 2 ways. And I think I fell into a place where if it wasn't practice early on, I didn't find myself in the gym. So it was, I'd come for practice, do what was required, sometimes go through the motion, because I thought, like I said, I'm here, I've done it. It's just going to come to me now. And if it required any kind of extra shots, extra conditioning, extra weight room sessions with our trainer, like I was not, involved in any of that. And I think part of that is when you first get to college, it's kind of like a shock. It's like, man, I've got, my whole days, unless, you're in preseason and stuff, your whole day, some of it is planned, but not your entire day is not planned for you. Like it is in high school, where you're, 7:30 to 3:30 every day. This is what you're going to do. And then right after is when you have practice. So you're done by 6 o'clock, in college, and you guys know how it is. Like you wake up at 9, you have class at 9:10, your class is done at 10. Then you got a 4-hour break. And then you got class again at 2. Like, and I think for me, it was just like, man, I got all this free time. I've got, this is a luxury, and I think if you really love it and you're passionate about it, like I said, you're going to put everything into it. And for me, there was no extra gym time outside of practice. There was no extra conditioning stuff. And then later on, man, especially once, and I redshirted, so that 5 years flew by for me. It was, I mean, like that. And by my senior year, man, I'm not kidding. I was in the gym 3, sometimes 4 times. I mean, practice would count as one of them, but I bugged my assistant coach, Jack Frost, who's now at Stanford, and he'll probably tell you the same thing. I called and called and called. Sometimes I called him at 12 o'clock, hey, coach, can you rebound for me? And I hate for myself that, I had to go through that eye-opening experience at the Division I level first for me to see it. But I'm glad that, I was aware of that, because now I feel like as a coach, I can make sure that my guys don't slip and, and let them know, like, this is what you say you want, and this is what you kind of have to do.
Yeah.
When you look at, that, how tough is it as a coach to kind of judge whether a player will get complacent once they get to on campus versus, the willingness to hit their ceiling?
That's kind of a tough question. That's a good question, though. I think, when you ask high school coaches and AAU coaches, before the kid gets into college, I think, there's a lot of good coaches out there that are honest with you. And I always ask them beforehand, like, please be honest with me. Like, I really want to know, like, does this kid take it seriously? And, like, most coaches, some of them are just going to tell you, he's all-American type kid. He's in the gym every day. If he's got free time, he's doing this, he's doing that. And we've had instances, this is going on my 4th year, where we've had coaches tell us that this kid's this kid's that. We go watch a workout, he's going hard and, just fully drenched in sweat and pushing his other teammates. And then when he gets here to college, it's like the exact opposite. So I think really, as for college coaches, I think you have to, have that open, honest dialect with the people that are around them. And I think, it can't just be coaches, it has to be parents. And I feel like too, one thing that I heard the first Final Four I ever went to, I heard a great quote, and I can't remember who said it now, but, we eat tough conversations for breakfast. So for me, when I'm talking to the kids, I have that open conversation with them. How much do you really love it? Because the kids that have been here where we are, we're blessed now to be in our 4th year together as a staff. But the kids we had before, yeah, I love it, coach. Yeah, this. And, it was the opposite, and the culture was awful for it and because of it. And so I think we do a great job now of, we have to determine, we have to see, like, this kid is really passionate. And he really, really enjoys and has a true love for what he's doing. And I think for us, like, we do a good job of, not just with the high school coaches, you have to get the kid to be honest with you. And, that's a huge red flag if the kid lies to you in high school, I think, obviously. And, also too, like, parents and best friends, girlfriends, like, how much is your boyfriend in the gym? Which is, I'm sure it's like a weird thing to get asked, but, we're in the process here of trying to rebuild something that hasn't been good in a long time. And, we can't afford, another, 2-3 years of guys coming in and, contradicting themselves and lying to us. And it's just, that's a really tough question, because it's so hard to judge now, because I feel like every kid will tell you, yeah, coach, I'm always in the gym, but how do you prove that?
Right. And, one of the things I've always been, that, I've been told by a lot of high school coaches is, it could be as simple as you throw a cup at the trash can, it doesn't go in, you don't go and pick it up. It
Right.
could be as simple as, when the game is going on, you're not active, you're not loud, that college coaches just walk out or either just say, hey, we're good on this kid. How is that kind of true in your experience as well, of just kind of trying to figure out character in smaller actions rather than words?
Yeah, I think so. I think one thing that we preach to our guys is body language screams. And with this recruiting class, I feel so good about, and with our current guys that we have on the roster, I feel so good about, because all of our guys on our roster, we finally have guys that truly love their teammates, truly love, who they're playing with. And, I 100% agree. Like, we look for that stuff now. Like, if you're not having a great game, like, we're not going to recruit you not going to not recruit you because, you have one bad game. Like, how do you act when you have that one bad game?
Right.
I've even asked some high school coaches, honestly, and, I just did this with one high school coach yesterday. I said, send me his film. Like, he wanted to send me, a couple game tapes. And I said, all right, send me one of his best games of the season and send me one of his worst, like, where it was just, he couldn't hit anything. His passes were getting stolen. His handle was, he was just getting ripped. Like, send me that. And, the response was kind of like, okay, like, that's a weird request, but, if that's what you need, coach, like, that's what I'll do. But that's because now, in this time where we obviously can't get out and see people live, that's one thing we watch. Like, if the kid's having a bad game, like, how's his body language? Is he still like involved? Is he still like letting his coach push him? Or is he, he's having a bad game and his coach is trying to pick him up and, he's in his coach's face, saying something to him, not giving, his teammates encouragement. Like, that's, for me, that's all visible stuff. Very visible. So when I say, like, body language screams, like, if you're over on the bench, coach takes you out, you're hot, you've scored 10 points in the last 3 minutes, coach takes you out. Are you going to come over and run off the court and high five all your teammates, listen to what coach has to say to you, and, be vocal and be a leader on the bench? Or are you going to come over there and pout and walk all the way to the end of the bench and sit there? I think, like you said, those are really good ways to kind of see what kids are like. And I feel like some kids don't think that college coaches watch that, but I think a lot of coaches watch that stuff very closely.
Right. You guys are playing with live ammo.
Yeah.
And the COVID situation has made y'all play with live ammo inside of a dark room.
Right. I agree. I mean, it's like we get, I don't know, like 100 emails a day, 100, 150, something like that. Like, hey, coach, check this kid out. Whether it's, unsigned seniors still, or 2021s or 2022s, or like JUCO transfers, like it's still coming, man. I mean, it's June 12th, and kids are supposed to be back on campus in 2 months, and I'm still getting 100, 150 emails like, check this kid out. So like, it's rough right now, man, but I love it. I love being able to watch the film and kind of see how kids are. It's definitely different though. It's definitely different in the fact that, you can't, obviously kids can send you highlight tapes and it looks really good, and that's when, I see a highlight tape and it looks really good, and I'm contacting his high school coach. I'm saying, hey, send me a good film and a bad film. And that's kind of how I've approached it this summer. But it's definitely not the same as sitting courtside and getting to see, when you're 10, 20, 30 feet away from that kid, how is he really? It's so different.
I was going to add one more thing on your background from the beginning. You went to Mountain Heritage, correct? And
correct.
It was Coach Dwayne Buckner you were referring to, right?
Correct. Well, so he was our assistant for 3 years. My head coach's name was Barry Johnson. Yeah. And so Dwayne kind of took over. Coach Buckner took over my senior year. Coach Johnson had retired. And that's kind of, when you go from, I don't know how he did it. I thought he did a great job, but going from being the assistant for 3 years, and we go, like Sweet 16, first year, Elite 8, second year, then Final Four of the state playoffs. And then, you lose 4 starters and like 75, 80% of your offense, and try to coach, for 1 year to follow up all that. I thought he did. That was incredible. But yeah, Coach Buckner, man, shout out to Coach Buckner. He was a great one.
And Mountain Heritage too. They've not just their boys program, but their girls program just won states in 2019. Went undefeated too.
Yes,
they got some great players. But just to transition back to how you got started at Mars Hill with Coach Vic Fenora and company. Yep. What has this 4 years been like for you? And also, if you could like sneak in there, break down this past season for your team. Yeah.
So after I finished my playing career, my assistant principal in high school, and this is how crazy it goes to, it's the old adage of it's who you know type stuff. In this business, and it really was for me. My assistant principal has been the voice, I guess you would say, of the Lions for I don't even know how long now. It's got to be 30 plus years now. But he knew that Coach Fenora was looking for another assistant. He had his full-time assistant at the current time, Will White. Shout out to Will. He's he helped me learn so much that first year. But he kind of Vic was looking for somebody else to come in and do it part-time pay, full-time hours type deal. And I was just looking to get into it. And he vouched for me. My assistant principal vouched for me to Coach Vic, and he kind of just took his word for it. Like, this kid played college basketball and he's got great character. So he, out of the blue, I got a phone call from him one day. He was like, hey, I'd like to talk to you about it. And from there, the rest is history. And, this will be my 4th year now. Just finished my 3rd. Working for Coach Fenora is such a blessing, and it's such a great experience because I've never been around, besides my college head coach and why I'm so comfortable with Coach Vic, I've never besides, like I said, my college coach, been around such another like loving family person than Coach Fenora. He's the type that, you know, you've got family problems, you've got, you know, your best friend got some problems, anything with family at any time, whether it's, you know, we got practice in 2 hours, we got practice in 5 minutes, you need to miss a week. Like, he's always the guy that says, go be with family, because that's the most important thing. And I think why guys have bought into what we're doing here so much is just because he shows, you know, he really shows our guys like what is the most important thing in life. We talk about, you know, we try not to push it on our guys. We want them to make their own decisions, but, you know, we talk about Christ a lot. Both of us are Christ followers. Our other two assistants here are both Christ followers. So, you know, we pray a lot. We talk about Jesus a lot. We talk about the scripture a lot. And then on top of that, you know, he always shows them what's more important. He shows them that, you know, the degree is more important. Your family is more important. It's more than just basketball. Like, we want you to come to Mars Hill and find what you love to do and find what you're passionate about. Even if that is basketball and basketball doesn't work out for you, you know, like, what are you going to do after? And we try to help our guys find what they're passionate about and send them in the right direction once they graduate. But I think that whole atmosphere that he just provides is just it's so nice and so comforting, especially for 18 to 22, sometimes 23-year-old kids, just to have that family atmosphere that some might have never had. You know, for me, I love being a part of it. And then, you know, for us, like I've said, I think I've mentioned it, you know, a few minutes ago, but for us, it's been a building process. It was not pretty at the start. I will tell you that. He was the assistant coach here for another head coach who was fired in the middle of the season. So he kind of became the interim head coach. After the season was over, he was promoted to full-time head coach. And I've been blessed to be with him his entire, you know, span of being the head coach here. But like I said, it was, man, that first year, I don't know if you guys know anything about Mars Hill or like the history of basketball here at Mars Hill, but it was not in a good place. In a very, very tough league that does not feel sorry for you.
Oh, yeah. The South Atlantic Conference is not one you want. Yeah. That's,
no. Yeah, it's rough. But, you know, that first year, we went 4-24. We had a lot of locker room problems and some players that we had to get rid of. And there's no hard feelings with those kids. That's kind of the best part about it, is that, you know, we help them find other places to go and other places to be. But, you know, for us and what we were trying to build and our culture here, it was just not, you know, it didn't mesh. And so that first year, you know, we ended up, our leading scorer was gone at Christmas. And I feel like, you know, if we would have kept 3 or 4 of those guys, you know, we might have won a couple more games. I feel like we would have. Their talent was right where we needed it to be. But, you know, at the end of the day, working, you know, another side story here, but working Virginia basketball camp, Tony Bennett said it best, like, you got to find guys that you can lose with first. And I think, like, we never said that. We never said that to our guys, and we never, you know, that was never a saying that we put on the locker room or anything. But for us, that was so true, because we had to find guys that we could lose with first, and their, you know, their beliefs and their morals and how they held themselves didn't change. It didn't waver. They didn't become different people when everything was going bad. And so, that first year here, we got to recruit, some guys that we wanted. The second year we went 9-19, which is a pretty good jump. We knew from the start, we always joked about it, like, hey man, we're going to go from 4 wins to 18, 4-20. And that's just not that's not at all how it goes. But 4-9, we felt like was good. Graduated a big senior class, got to recruit another big class in, got some transfers in. And then this past year, we went 12-17, 10 conference wins. It's the most wins since 2009, 2010 here, so 11 years.
And once again, that's in one of the toughest Division II conferences in college basketball. D2
right.
basketball.
And 10 conference wins is actually tied for the most in school history. So, that's just kind of how the season went. I felt like we finally, like I said, we got our guys in that we wanted, that we could build, and lose with first and kind of get that process going. But now it's, now the challenge is you go from 4 to 9 to 12. Now the process gets a little bit harder just because of how competitive this league is. And on top of, COVID, shrinking our schedule down to 22 games. Now it's going to be, now we don't want to take a step back. Now we've preached to these kids like it's all about moving forward, and this is how we're going to do things here at Mars Hill. So now how do we keep that going in the right direction? And I feel like with a mixture of the kids we have coming back and how bad they just hate losing, and this recruiting class that's coming in that all just want to do something that's never been done here, I think we're in the right place. It's going to be a weird season this season, though, man. 22 games, people think it's not a lot, but 6 games that's 6 games.
That's 6 really important games too, like non-conference, and it's like revenue, and it's all this other stuff. So
that's, if you think about it like this way, it's 6 games that our seniors never get back. Type thing. It's just, so we're hoping, we've set that foundation, and we're just going to keep moving forward with it. So
yeah, in a tough conference, like when you have to play Lincoln Memorial, Queens, Catawba, Tusculum, Anderson, and all them, and then Newberry and Lenoir Rhine. That's just, and even the teams when you get UVA-Y. I know UVA-Y struggle, but that's the programs in this conference are all really good, like Carson Newman, Coker. So it's really good that you guys have really built that program up. So now you can go ahead and challenge, obviously, with everything that's going on. That's even another challenge.
Right.
But you guys, from going there last summer, it just seemed like there's a good vibe in that place, and it seemed like things are going to be back in the right direction, and hopefully it's a sign of good things to come. And I know you guys are going to do a good job. But to talk about, at least to whatever extent you can talk about your recruiting class that's coming in this year, what was kind of the point of emphasis with this recruiting class in terms of recruiting in-state or recruiting, hard-nosed guys that really want to go at it? And you can
right.
Talk about any guys you could talk about.
So the funny thing about the recruiting classes in the past year, and I'm not knocking any of our players at all because we've had great players the past couple years, but the previous, head coach did not want to recruit the state of North Carolina, which blew my mind completely. We're the hoop state for a reason. It's been that way for a long time. There's players everywhere. The talent is just, it's all over the state. And his reasoning was,
do you think that was because of your location, though?
I think he said that, and I was just getting ready to say, I think he said that because he didn't want to challenge, all the other schools that the kid might have to pass through to get to us. which is kind of, I mean, it's true. I mean, we're literally the very tip before you get into Tennessee, so it's like you've got to pass.
Like literally like 45 minutes from Tennessee. Maybe,
right. Yeah, 45 minutes. I mean, you have to pass everybody to get to us. So, before that, like we had a bunch of kids from Georgia, a couple kids from South Carolina, Florida. So I think the biggest point of emphasis, and like I said, Will White really helped with this process too, is that Coach Vic is from Canada. So his ties, with the state aren't great. They're getting a lot better. But I think where Will and I were able to help him that first year is we had to, reestablish those connections and ties with coaches in North Carolina, which was crazy because we'd have coaches say, well, I haven't had a coach from Mars Hill call in 10, 15 years. And it's just like, well, I mean, that's it's just kind of crazy. There's been really good players in this area, in the Asheville area, in Western North Carolina, that, you would think your first objective was keep the best player in the region at all costs, like keep the best player in the region. And there were kids from here that went to upstate, North Greenville, Queens. I mean, none of them were ever seen on a Mars Hill roster, dating back to like 2010, 2011. So I think trying to get that local connection back up, and talking about one of the kids that we got, it was big for me because he came from my high school, and that's Justice Shelton.
The big kid, yes.
Yeah. I've known him,
He's really good.
I've known him for a long time. I've known his family for a long time. His mother, a lot of people don't know that, his mother is in the Hall of Fame here.
She is the one who led Mountain Heritage to the yes.
Yeah, she was, like a 2-time All-American player here. So I think the biggest part, was to make sure that we could get good quality players from up here first and tie those guys down. And then moving on from there, it was, like I said, reestablishing those connections in the state, and locally too. We've got a kid coming from Chattanooga this year, a big 6'7" forward who's very versatile, play the 3, the 4, the 5, very athletic, can shoot it, shot 48% from 3 this year. We've got, I think our main thing was trying to decide what we wanted, and how we wanted to play. And so we sat down, even for my first year, and just kind of decided, like, we're going to get kids here that are versatile. I feel like in this league especially, there are a ton of teams that, don't have true posts, don't have true foremen. I mean, a lot of teams play 4 guards. Some teams play 5 guards. And so, I think we like the idea of having a big man, a rim protector, somebody that can post and score. But I think the biggest thing for us was just trying to find guys that can play, 1, 2, 3, 4 positions maybe sometimes. And I think with this class, I think we did a really good job. We're trying to play a lot faster. I thought we played pretty fast this year, but next year we want to play even faster. We averaged 83 points a game, which was 4th in conference. We took a lot of threes. We put a lot of emphasis on, the first good shot you get is probably going to be the best shot you get in the possession. So let's go ahead and take that one, which, teams, coaches or people just in the community that come watch us play are probably like, wow, well, like, y'all take a lot of bad shots. Because, it's like within the first 6-7 seconds of the shot clock. But in reality, that's what we want, especially if you're open and it's not contested. That might be the best look you get, all possession. So I think what we really tried to get in this recruiting class was guys that are versatile. We locked up a point guard, locked up a big man, and then, we got some wings that can really shoot it, really stretch the floor, really versatile. And the one thing that I love about all of our guys is that tough-nosed. They're just competitors. Like, they have a chip on their shoulder. You know, they've been looked over for the past year or two, and they got something to prove to somebody. And that's kind of, you know, that's what we want. We want guys that can come in and push our current guys and push the classes that we bring in the future. And I feel like this class, the 2020 class, is going to do that for sure.
Absolutely. I did pull it up right here, and just looking at your class. I mean, thinking about guys like Jay Hickman, the kid who could shoot, Northwood Temple state champion, Jaleel Michael, Jaden's brother, who's coming as well. And you said try and keep the best players in the region, like Justice Shelton and Lane Harrell from Cherryville.
Right.
So, and Reggie Walton, I think, is who you were mentioning.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a really good recruiting class for a Division II program that is like all the way up here in Asheville area.
Right.
For y'all to get the kids that you got, I think it's really impressive of you and Coach Fenora and your entire staff.
I appreciate that, man. We feel the same way. We feel like, you know, it's going to be a great representation of what we're trying to do, and they feel the same way. I think the best part about this class, too, is that they're already so vocal in everything we're doing. And it's, you know, for us right now, it's a lot of Zoom calls and a lot of Zoom team meetings and a lot of virtual stuff. And you know how guys are, especially when they're younger. They like, nobody wants to talk. It's like, hey, well, what do you guys think about this? Like, what do you think about, you know, what we're going to do next season? What do you guys think about doing this? And everybody's just like there's no, it's like you don't have any thoughts on anything at all. But it's like
you're just saying, like, speak on it. Come on, guys.
Right. I think the best part about some of our freshmen is that they're already voicing their opinions. Like, it's already like, hey, coach, I want to do this, and we want to do this. And we talked in our own group chat, and we talked about this and this. And I'm like, man, like, we've already got these freshmen coming in that want to change what we're doing, and they're already vocal and calling guys out.
Speaking of, I know this is not related to basketball, but Jaleel Michael was really vocal, like, in terms of everything that's going on right now with protests about police brutality and all this stuff. And him and his brother voiced their opinions about their school's thoughts on all the issues.
I love it.
Threatened to not go to their graduation if they didn't speak up. And I really think it was very strong of Jaleel and Jaden to do that, and it was really cool to see, honestly. I
agree. I'm very proud of him for standing up and talking about what he believes in, and what, you know, I feel the same way. I feel the same way that he does. I want the same thing that everybody wants. I want equality for everybody, and, you know, for those guys to do that. And I think the best part of what we kind of did to try to, you know, make our guys feel welcome is we just had a team meeting, and we just had open dialogue. You know, we didn't sit here as coaches and press on, well, this is how I feel and this is how it should be and whatever. Like, we let our guys talk about it and talk about, you know, this is what I face every day, coach. You know, this is what I see every day. And I think if we do that and we try to understand, and everybody tries, you know, not everybody just voice an opinion, like actually sit down and listen to what your guys have to say and what your friends have to say. I think that's more powerful than anything. Because if you can truly understand what somebody's going through, then you can figure out ways to help. And I think our guys really appreciated that. I think our guys appreciated that, you know, us as a staff, we didn't just go in and say, you know, this is our views on it, and this is Mars Hill basketball, and this is how we're going to feel about it. Like, we let them say, like, you know, have their point of view, have, you know, this is what we should do. This is how we should do it as a team. This is how we should do it as individuals. I think that was really powerful for our program.
Right. And, you know, when you look at it, one thing I do want to ask you as a college coach,
right.
How important do you think how do you kind of view kids being able to use their platform to kind of speak? In some ways, it can be dangerous because, when you look at it, if they use it the wrong way, things,
Right.
Bad things can happen. When you talk about, regular posting, but speaking up for what they believe in. I believe one of the girls that we covered a couple of years ago, Asia Todd, she came out and transferred from Liberty. How big of a role do you think college basketball, will play in, being able to help the movement or, and kind of defining where we're at right now?
I think college basketball athletes and college athletes in general have such a big, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is, but they have such the power, like they can change so much with their voice, with their opinions, with how they carry themselves, because the spotlight is on them. Especially when you go back to your community, it's like, oh man, there's Alex, there's Vic, there's like, that's how it was when I would come back in the summers and everybody wants to talk to you and know how everything's going. And I think, especially for younger generations coming up, I don't think our guys, I think our guys do, and we kind of talked to them about this, but I think, 18 to 22-year-old guys, even though, they're not grown adults, they're not in the world on their own yet, they can be such a big role model to so many kids and so many people in their communities. And I think that's one of the biggest things I learned as a college athlete is like how many people in the community, at your school, on campus, back home, how many eyes are on you and what you do. I mean, you could literally say one thing wrong. For example, this never happened to me, but you could say one thing wrong and somebody from back home could post it on somebody's Facebook, and now, 10,000 people in your little community or your little town that you grew up in know exactly what you said.
Right.
And I think, guys don't see that. Guys don't understand that. I didn't understand it then. I have a better understanding of it now. But just having that opportunity to be role models and to change, generations coming up lives is the biggest thing. And I think, the character of our guys on our roster right now is just through the roof. Like, they're great guys, and it's so fun to be around them and laugh and, cry and all those different emotions. And, the biggest thing that my coach at Milligan taught to me is that, and this is like working summer camps with little kids, you just never know whose life you come in contact with that you could change, whether it's for the better or whether it's for the worse. And I think, that's one thing that college athletes need to realize more, is that you never know who's listening. You never know who's watching. You never know, what one thing you could say or do might change something like that. That's just, it's so crazy, especially the bigger Division I athletes that, might get drafted or whatever. It's just, I don't think they fully understand how many people watch them or listen to them. And then they're all the time like saying something and it's negative and all these comments, or they're doing something wrong that they shouldn't be. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, scramble mode, and I got to try to cover it up, and I got to try to say the right thing and all this stuff. I just wish, from coming in right from the start, I wish kids knew more how much change they can make on somebody. And I think my college coach and what I try to tell my guys is like, be a good role model for somebody, because those kids idolize you. And, the crazy part is those kids idolize you and they might have never said a word to you. They come to the games and they got your, your jersey number on their back and all this different stuff, and they wear your colors, but you might have never said a word to them. So like how you carry yourself on the court, off the court, what you do in the community is just so big. It's so big, man. And I think I'm proud of all of my guys and proud of Jaleel for speaking up and what he believes in, and how all of my guys have handled this situation. I'm proud of them. And I think it needs to be, I think that kind of open dialogue with everybody needs to happen everywhere. That's just how I feel about it.
Shout out to Asia too. Yeah, I know Kai just mentioned Asia Todd, who played at Clayton High School, which is in our area. Asia, what he mentioned is Asia transferred from Liberty, not just for basketball reasons, but for reasons.
Well, it was. She said. She said.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't because of basketball. It wasn't because of her coaches or her teammates, but because the culture and the leadership of the school did not align to her values.
Right.
That's correct. I apologize.
Just going into a little bit about her. I remember doing her Player of the Year interview, and she was so vocal about going to Liberty because of the Christian values and things of that nature.
Yes.
So, I always think it is, to see her doing that now, it kind of makes sense when you look at it. She had some, I think, bigger offers than Liberty, but she chose Liberty because of it aligned with her values and her Christian faith. I do think it's important, that kids can kind of understand to make sure they're going to a place that kind of fits what their ideals are, what their core beliefs are, and can offer exactly what they're looking for. Just like what you were talking about with your high school coach asking you, what did you want out of this? It's important that players, when they look at a college, they look at it from the whole angle of what exactly am I looking to get out of this experience before I go.
Right. Super.
By the way, of course, I know this is just a little side note. Asia is really famous around here because she in a playoff game against I think it was against Eastern Wayne, Kai?
Correct.
In a playoff game, she was literally double teamed the whole game. That's how good she was.
Literally, like off the ball, she's standing at half court. They have two people around her.
Yes, the entire game.
Yes.
Eastern Wayne did win, right? I think it worked.
Yeah, Eastern Wayne did win because of that.
But yeah, that Asia Todd was that good of a scorer to have two players on her at all times, even when she needs to have the ball. Yes. Now Asia spoke up for what she believes in, and we're really proud of Asia Todd for sure.
Oh, I'm proud of her too, and I don't even know her, but that's like, you just have to be proud of kids for that. You have to be proud of people for that are standing up for what they believe in, and taking a stand for what they think is right. And I'm proud of all of my guys, like I said, and then everybody else is taking a stand too, because it's just, the world is just such a scary place right now.
Right. It's changing.
It's changing. And it's just, like that ties into what I just told you, like where the world is becoming a scary place. The guys that I mentor and the guys that Vic mentor and we get to coach and be around every day, we could, mentor them and they can mentor the generations coming up so that we don't ever have to go through this again, type thing. And I think that's part of being in the power of being a college athlete, is that you can change a lot of things.
I think being a college athlete, it's a big road of being mature enough and wise enough to understand what's going on, but then also being young and foolish enough to be willing to fight against everything that has gone on throughout the history, to be willing to go up against that power. Right.
I completely agree.
But I think, do we have anything else for him, Kai?
No, I think it was good. I appreciate you for coming on, Coach. You gave a lot of great insight, and I think kids are going to benefit from hearing what you have to say.
I appreciate that. I just hope, any kind of positive light that we can shine, and you guys are doing great stuff. Any kind of positive light that anybody can shine on the world right now is just, that's what we need more of. And, for me also, like, just any kind of positive light I can shed on Mars Hill, man. We're trying to get back to what it was, 70s, 80s, before I was even born. I don't even know about, but that's kind of, that's why I do this, man. And at the end of the day, it's about the wins and losses in the grand scheme, but also for me, bigger picture, it's about developing young men into being great adults and leading our next generation into something better and something greater. Just like my coaches did for me, and that's why I do it, man. That's why I do it.
Thank you very much, Coach Biggerstaff. Of course, where can they find you on social media?
You can follow me on Twitter at abiggerstaff42. I don't post much on Instagram. I would give you my Instagram, but I'm never on Instagram. So.
It's all good.
You got Instagram to be a coach, so that way you can look at the recruits, Instagram real quick. That's where you got it. That's where the coach.
Is Instagram coming back up, man? Are they putting the highlight videos on Instagram now?
Yeah, I feel like
they're putting highlight videos and all sorts of other stuff on there. So that's why I always tell them. Hey,
I just use Twitter.
What you post.
But yeah, but yes, Mars Hill basketball, of course, on the rise. Thanks to guys like Alex Biggerstaff and the entire coaching staff, and hopefully big things to come for them. And of course, this is the Just Like Brothers podcast. We've really done 60 episodes, Kyle. Would you believe that?
Yes. Let's keep it going.
Yes. Hopefully, we got way more for you. Of course, you can find this podcast on all social media platforms. YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching, and please subscribe. We're almost at 1,000 subs. On Anchor, on Apple Podcasts, all podcasting platforms. And of course, you know where to find myself and Kyle on social media, so you know that. Thank you again, and we'll see you again next time. Peace.